Story 1. Puberty is definitely a reason, if not the main reason, he is becoming more angry. My advice is to help him find an outlet for letting out anger. When I was an older teenager, concerts helped me. Story 2. Be calm. Acknowledge his frustration, but do not engage in the aggression. He needs to learn to manage his anger. He will not learn that if you both rile each other up. Story 3. He may not have gotten angry previously, but was he naturally one of those children who never had to work hard to be good at something, or has he just started to care more about certain activities? Story 4. You need to instill in him immediately the idea that he is not good enough yet to get angry. If you do not do this immediately, it will worsen to the point he will stop trying new things because he is afraid of failure. This will become a lifelong handicap he carries. Make him understand it is okay to fail if you learn from your failures. Tell him his goal should be to keep making mistakes but never make the same mistake twice. Tell him even Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Bo Nix throw interceptions sometimes. Story 5. His testicles are producing testosterone, and he has to adjust to this stage of life that will last well into middle age. It might help to let him know what is happening to him and that it is normal, but it is not an excuse for bad behavior. Story 6. As others have said, he is experiencing hormonal changes, and testosterone is a powerful hormone. It has deep impacts on rationality. The answer is not just to be understanding. You need to help him understand. He needs to realize in a calm moment that he is acting badly and that part of it comes from his body, beyond his desire to act good or bad. However, he must learn to control that and be the master of himself despite his impulses. I use the term impulses because it will not end with rage. It will affect decision-making, inhibition, risk-taking, and sexual desire. He needs to learn to channel his rage in a productive manner and not let his changing body control him. More productive outlets for rage include taking a break to breathe, exercising, or hitting a punching bag. But he needs to understand that raging out in public will be a net negative going forward. He cannot punch a wall at school, nor yell at his boss or coworkers on the job. It can also help to try to have a plan. Name triggers and find productive outlets. For example, if he gets mad when he loses a game, instead of smashing his controller or keyboard, he should step away from the desk and do push-ups until he is no longer angry. He will channel that energy into a place where he benefits and no one else is hurt. The point is to have a plan for how he will deal with anger when it arises. Story 7. Teen boys need a physical outlet that challenges them. Biking, sports, martial arts, weightlifting, something. Story 8. Being a teenager is difficult for some children. Support them, but set clear boundaries. Watch for signs of self-harm. Story 9. Help him curb it now so he does not become the toxic adult nobody knows how to deal with at work or in social circles. He is not a monster to deal with, but you can help work with him to get through it. Story 10. Not a Parent but Mindset by Carol Dweck mentions some of her work with children. It might be a good read for you. Essentially, it is about shifting the perspective to the learning process instead of the end result. Story 11. His hormones are going crazy right now, so that is part of it. You need to teach him that failure is an event, not a person. He is internalizing his mistakes and failures as reflections of his self-worth. Remind him that many aspects of life require failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. Remind him that he fell on his butt as a baby when he was learning to walk and that he called spaghetti paschetti when he was learning to speak. He needs to know that it is normal for people to go through a period of failure before they achieve success. It is important to embrace failures and difficulties because you can never improve if everything always comes easy. Story 12. Remind him that no one is good at everything on the first try. Remind him of the things he has improved at. If he plays sports, I imagine he has improved since he first signed up. Above all, help teach healthy ways to cope and express his feelings. I do not know what angry means exactly in this context, but if his anger is expressed in a healthier manner, he could grow into a mature man who manages his anger. Struggling with anger will hurt him more than anything in life. No one likes dealing with an angry person. Story 13. Allow validation for him to be angry. I get it, math is hard. And yes, that person was being a jerk at school. Or, I know you're tired and I still need your help carrying in the groceries. With that, I have perfected the smile and nod approach to allow space for my two teenagers to vent, and then I talk to them later the same day to assess. Story 14. Start teaching him that failure is a part of life, growing, learning, and becoming better. Failure should be accepted and encouraged. Story 15. I had a similar experience around that age. For me, it was an effort to distance myself from the mistakes in others' eyes while beating myself up over them. I think the things below may have helped me. It may not help immediately, but it will stick with him and grow over time. At a time when he is relatively calm and receptive, or if he finds himself saddened instead of angry, remind him that failure or slow progress does not mean he is a failure. I would suggest not doing this when he is trying to deflect responsibility. It may make him feel vulnerable or attacked, and it might not be received well. Challenging the deflection directly may be worthwhile, but it never affected the root cause when I was there. It is a decoy argument to avoid the more sensitive issue. Perfection is a set of moving goalposts. You will never get there, but you can grow and find contentment in progress. Remind him that being hard on himself is not the same as constructive criticism. There are enough people who will be hard on him in life. He can leave that to them. The most important part would have been about failures not reflecting his value. The efforts he makes to learn, grow, and pick his battles are much more important to his value. This is something I am still working on accepting and which many men struggle to accept. Story 16. I try to model laughing at and enjoying my mistakes or unsuccessful attempts. I don't claim to be proud of myself for trying my best or anything like that. Those statements are obviously platitudes that will be lost on him in the moment. I am always honest about admitting when I make a mistake, play poorly in a game, or am just not good at something. Doing it with a smile is personally freeing as well. Story 17. Is there any chance that he has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? My son has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and is 12 years old. He often abandons activities he is not immediately good at and is very self-critical. Sometimes he finds external reasons for why he cannot do something or is not good at it. He approaches new activities thinking he will be a prodigy, but when it becomes clear he is not as skilled as he expected, he becomes upset and quickly loses interest. My wife and I try to explain that he is not bad at it, he is just new, and that he needs to practice. However, the lack of dopamine makes it hard for his brain to keep working towards that goal, which further lowers his self-esteem. I am not diagnosing your child, but it might be worth considering the possibility, especially if you or the other parent have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. My wife has it, and her only consistent hobby is reading books. She recently decided to learn the ukulele and practice sporadically for hours each day for the first 2 weeks. However, her practice has tapered off and I suspect she will not pick it up again soon, which is fine because I bought the ukulele for our daughter anyway. I mention this because my wife is in her 30s and has good to fair emotional regulation, whereas a hormonal 13-year-old may not. Finding hobbies that he likes and shows enough recurring interest in to practice regularly would be a good place to start in helping him build discipline. My son does not have many hobbies, but he likes to draw. We bought him decent pencils, inking pens, and sketchbooks. Now he spends a few hours a week drawing from references, and for a child who is not good at much, his pictures are quite good. Story 18. When he understands that he learns more from failure or challenge than from everything going his way all the time, he will look at things differently. Asking a 13-year-old to grasp and embrace that might be asking a lot. Also, I have a teenage son. Getting angry and blaming others is a form of rationalizing quitting. I would blatantly point that out to him. Is he a quitter? Can he not adapt and pivot when things do not go his way? He may not be able to do this successfully right now, but he needs to learn how. Story 19. I was like this growing up, and honestly, I can still get this way today. I was naturally gifted at certain things, and anything that took real effort to learn or improve in, I just didn't want to deal with. I'm not sure what could have helped me grow out of that mindset or become more comfortable with doing hard things. But one thing that I have focused on personally in the last 3 years is learning to take accountability. Instead of blaming others, I have started taking more ownership myself, and that shift, among other things, has made it easier to see that if I want to get better at something, it is at least partly in my control. I am in my late 20s, by the way. Story 20. He is living life in a river of hormones, arbitrary expectations for men, and a body doing new things to him. Of all my eras of life, my teenage years are the only times I would not want to do over. Story 21. My son is 14. He takes a lot in stride, but like any other teenager, he has his moments of frustration. For my son, frustration in response to a failure, even if only perceived, comes down to a couple of things. First, embarrassment and disappointment stemming from the idea that he is failing more than others. Some of this comes from social media, the highlight reel, and some of it comes from well-meaning parents and peers who are great at pretending to be confident and who are more successful at keeping their mistakes under the radar. In response to this, I started talking more about my own failures. This can be especially powerful coming from parents, who to most kids look put together or like they have it all figured out. Giving him the chance to see that we all make mistakes, and that age, status, or experience does not change that has been helpful for him. Instead of being mad at himself for not getting it right, he is learning to accept that he is having a normal human moment, and that helps him let it go. Second, teenagers are notorious for believing they know everything, and this very normal phase of life makes them incredibly uncomfortable when they are challenged or when they are not able to perform at the level they believe they should be able to. For this aspect, there is not much to do but let them live through it and learn their own strengths and weaknesses and figure out the coping mechanisms that will work best for them. Frankly, messing up just sucks, and it is okay to spend a moment feeling that. Growing up is tough. Best of luck with what sounds like a very normal teenage boy. Story 22. Hey dude, as a 30-year-old who had extremely bad anger issues growing up, I can't thank you enough for asking this question. Yes, puberty can mix up the emotions quite a bit, but it's good to have that support system from your guardian when things are confusing in your head. I don't have an answer for you, but I really wanted to thank you for asking this. This is how we stop generational curses. Cheers to you. Story 23. Testosterone can definitely lower your tolerance to frustration. It can give you a short temper. Understand that his experience of the world is very different from your experience of the world. His temper is something he will have to learn to manage. Every man has to learn that same lesson. Personally, I find that I can often short-circuit a rage session by becoming analytical and trying to break the problem down to solve it. Story 24. Does he destroy things, hurt himself, or others? Of course not. Then emotion is fine. He just needs healthy outlets like sports or jiu-jitsu where he can channel his feelings and learn perseverance. A valuable life skill those pursuits naturally teach. Story 25. It seems that many children today lack the grit and understanding that they are not prodigies or superhumans who can do everything perfectly the first time. I'm not sure if it is due to instant gratification or something else, but I have seen several instances with different children who become frustrated and angry because they cannot hit a home run every time they are at bat, do not achieve a victory royale in Fortnite every time, and struggle with other challenges. I am at a loss as to why this is. Story 26. This is funny because my daughter is 4 and it is her first time in a team environment. We are trying to teach her the importance of working together with teammates. I would suggest teaching him to be proud of his team. If you win, cheer each other on. If you fail, everyone must come together, figure out where they went wrong, and grow together. It is all about teamwork at the end of the day. However, how your son handles his anger is his responsibility. He must control it himself so he does not hurt himself or others. If you as the parent want to help him, I suggest therapy, anger management, or simple breathing techniques. Story 27. That is a great opportunity to be a good parent. Talk to him about the source of his frustration, ask him why he feels that way, and see if he is open to chat. Acknowledge his feelings. If he feels frustrated, that is real. The causes might not be things you think are worth the frustration, but for him there might be bigger things behind. Generally, what has helped us is to focus on the intent and the hard work to get there. We praise our kids for the serious effort and not for the results. Although, of course, if they get results, we tell and celebrate the hard work and say they deserve it. It seems to work here. We see they focus on the effort and give it a good try. When they fail, they try again. We celebrate the second and third effort even harder. We do not spoil our children. The celebrations are mainly attention and talks. Also, it is genuine. We are genuinely happy they do their best effort, no matter the outcome. They will have their whole life to be judged on outcome. Now is their time to learn that results are called results. They come from effort and doing the right thing. Story 28. I think it comes with age and excitement. I remember blaming my brother and feeling a lot of anger around winning, but I think you just move on. Story 29. Teenage boys get angry at silly things. It is completely normal. The solution is to get him into sports. He will be too tired from conditioning to stay angry for long. Story 30. Make sure that you are not teaching him that anger is an appropriate emotional response in these kinds of situations. My dad reacted with anger very quickly, and growing up, I learned that was how to respond to emotionally charged situations. Part of that was a lack of vocabulary to express what I was feeling. I have since learned a lot and very rarely express anger. If the men in his life are perpetuating this behavior, it starts with them reevaluating and showing him that he can express disappointment and sadness without anger. Story 31. Limit screen and social media time. Young generations are seeing the success portrayed on social media and are learning that is where the standard is. Story 32. Success breeds complacency. Failure encourages growth. To become the best at something, he must be willing to fail at it repeatedly. Story 33. I am not a man, but connecting with him through media that emphasizes a slow and steady approach to success, such as Persona 5 or watching series like My Hero Academia, which involves Bakugo's anger issues and Deka's hard work, might be useful in addition to what others have suggested. Shonen anime, in general, usually has a good approach to male personal growth, such as Naruto. Story 34. We celebrate success because it is rare. Failure is the default setting for all of us. Get him into skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, martial arts, or anything where most around him are better and more experienced. Learning humility and perseverance at his age is very important. No skater ever got it right on the first try or the second or the third or the 300th, depending on the trick. But they keep trying and stay humble through literal blood, sweat, and tears. They keep going because there is no feeling sweeter than finally nailing what you have been working on for so long. I guarantee everyone else at the skate park or online will be excited about your success too. Martial arts are also fantastic for developing perseverance and discipline on the path to success. There will always be someone better, which means someone to learn from and who can teach you more skills. If you commit and reach black belt, it is like climbing a mountain. Getting to that summit is a huge success. But at the top, you see many other mountains you have not climbed. It is extremely humbling. Story 35. Hormones are not his true personality. Have him focus that energy on a team sport. Focus on a team sport because it teaches him that his actions affect others and he must stay accountable to his team. Story 36. Force him into competitive extracurricular activities. In my opinion, this habit is best treated by losing as much and as often as possible, along with being told you are not good. Once losing loses its novelty, you have a much more mature young person. Story 37. Try to change your perspective on failure. The best at anything treat each failure as a learning experience rather than something to get upset over. Also, learning to handle frustration and anger is an important life skill. A big mistake people make is trying to never allow young boys to be angry, as it is an emotion that is often frowned upon. They do not take the time to teach them ways to handle their anger in healthy ways. They just tell them the current way they express anger is unacceptable without giving a good alternative. Story 38. You have to show him the Adventure Time episode where Finn says, if you want to be good at something, first you have to be bad at it. Story 39. Normal. The boy has to learn how to struggle now while he is under your protection. More challenges. No quitting allowed. Story 40. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team because he was not good enough. However, rather than quit, he worked hard, made the team the next year, and became the greatest player of all time. Story 41. It's not uncommon for people to develop personality issues during puberty. My cousin went from being type A with good grades, clearly on her way to success, to someone who refuses to deal with the bipolar disorder she developed along with her period. You may want to talk to a psychiatrist. My cousin went undiagnosed for years because nobody addressed it. It was her family doctor who suspected there was an issue. He suggested she see a specialist. She was prescribed medication, and when she takes it, she is much like her old self. Story 42. Ira Glass, host of the This American Life podcast, once said he looked back at some of his first attempts and they were terrible. Something he wishes more creative people understood is that the first step to getting good at something is being terrible at it. I once watched a woodcarver and asked him how he could do that. He said he always kept the last 10 of anything, and the older ones went into the fire to keep the shop warm while he worked on the next one. He nodded to the owl he was carving and said that his first 500 owls went into the fire before he got one he liked. You might see if you can find stories like that for whatever your son is interested in. I vaguely remember reading a story about a famous basketball player, maybe Michael Jordan, who said he practiced for hours every day for years. His free throws were not any better than anybody else's when he started. Another idea might be to look at pictures or videos of him from when he was younger. You could show him a video of himself trying to walk and falling on his diaper-padded butt and tell him that it took weeks of standing, walking, and falling probably hundreds or thousands of times, and now he can probably outrun you. When he tries something and it goes badly, tell him that is how he has always succeeded. He tried and failed and tried again. He did not get mad or yell. He just kept plugging away, and with enough practice he got better. The next time he fails at something, he should say to himself, 1. And know that when he gets to 1,000, he will be good. Story 43. Part of being an adult is holding yourself accountable. You do need to check him. What activities, games or sports with teammates, make him look at the bigger picture. Son, in 5 years, nobody is going to remember that your team won the game. In 5 years, they will remember if you were disrespectful. He needs to stay focused on things he can control. I know it can seem hard to call your own kids out on bad and bratty behavior, especially if they are not accustomed to hearing it from you, but he has to realize nobody likes dealing with people who blame others and act poorly. It will come with time. When you tell him his behavior is unacceptable, ask him how blaming others will remedy the situation. Offer him some alternatives that he might not even consider. Walk him through different scenarios. Story 44. I suggest trying some things that are new to both of you together, even if you fail in front of him. Show him how to laugh at your own failures, pick yourself up, and try again. Story 45. This may sound counterintuitive, but I was an angry child, abused, an orphan, and mad at the world. I had a horrible temper. The biggest thing that taught me to control my temper was boxing. Story 46. Is he gifted? Have things traditionally been easy for him up to this point? I think you are right that puberty is playing a factor, but this is also a time in life when things often become more challenging. For kids who have always had it easy, this can be a difficult challenge. You can help him by teaching him to recognize the emotions he is feeling and taking a pause before he acts on them. Once he learns to recognize, I am angry and frustrated because I did not succeed at this task, it becomes easier to say, I will now put aside the anger and frustration so that I have a better chance to succeed when I try again. One thing that will help is to play games with him at home. Ultimately, if he is unable to manage this with your help, you should get him into cognitive behavioral therapy. This is a crucial time period for him, and he needs to learn to manage these emotions one way or another. Blessings to you both. Story 47. It is just a teenager thing. However, it is very important to get it under control now, or it will become a part of who he is. Do not ever yell or fight with him. Instead, help him and talk him through it. Let him know what is wrong and what is not okay. Help him learn a new way to either release that anger in a healthy way or learn how to control it. I had severe issues with controlling my anger when I was a child. Fortunately, I found a way to manage it and hated the idea of lashing out at people when I was angry. It is definitely not healthy to hold it in, but that was the method that worked for me. So be his listener and his support, and over time, he will learn how to deal with those emotions. Story 48. Talk about your own failures. Talk about times you felt foolish or unsure. Talk about how you overcame challenges or simply picked yourself up and tried again. Being human is relatable. Story 49. Lead by example. Encourage him to read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism should help and keep him accountable. Did you really get a low mark on the inorganic assignment because the teacher dislikes you? Or was it because you rushed it so you could play Fortnite? Did Becky turn you down because she is unkind? Or was it because you spent the last 3 years bullying her younger sister's best friend? And she has probably heard you are unpleasant? Story 50. I recommend individual sports. When there is nobody to blame but yourself for your loss, it creates a certain sense of accountability. Blaming others for your own faults is a terrible trait and should not be tolerated. That being said, puberty makes your emotions go into overdrive, especially in the early teenage years. I found that even when I was fully self-aware that I wasn't being rational, I would still feel immense emotions which sometimes led to undesirable behaviors. Generally, this calms down as they age. Story 51. You could always try the cold water method. Make him do something that takes time to be successful at. Story 52. I do creative work, and I refer to this a lot, but I think it applies to anyone who is trying something new. It normalizes the process and helps you realize everything in life takes time, commitment, and endurance. Maybe this will help put things in perspective and help him understand he can still have small victories along the way that make becoming great at something much more satisfying. Also, tell him to stick to what he's interested in, what his gut is telling him to do. Don't let him be discouraged because there's a reason he's being pulled to try the things he is, and that's important. People push those things aside in order to be practical or whatever. Lean into it, not away. And if it's just homework we're talking about, well, he has to do that to get to the fun stuff, unfortunately. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish someone had told me. All of us who do creative work get into it because we have good taste. But there is a gap. For the first couple of years, you make stuff and it's just not that good. It's trying to be good, it has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting, creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have the special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. If you are just starting out or still in this phase, you have to know it's normal, and the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you finish one story. It is only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap, and your work will be as good as your ambitions. I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. It's going to take a while. It's normal to take a while. Ira Glass, Story 53. At that age, there is not much left to do. The ability to handle frustration is something usually learned in early childhood. If he was able to manage frustration before, then he may just need some time to get used to the testosterone flowing through his body. Women often blame their hormones when they are moody, aggressive, or just mean. It is interesting that men do not get to blame the hormone that influences their behavior. Many transgender men can tell from their own experience what a huge difference testosterone makes. Story 54. How active is his father in his life? This is more father territory, and I would worry about the impact of overmothering on male aggression during adolescence. Also, do not discount the impact divorce has on the mental health of a young man. I am 31, and my dad died when I was 13, but my friends whose parents divorced all had major issues, some of which remain unresolved. Story 55. Based on what I have read, witnessed, and experienced so far. During puberty, both males and females experience a heavy load of hormones responsible for their gender characteristics, such as developing hair or breasts ready for childbirth. The hormonal changes do not only form these characteristics, they also alter the brain, mainly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for nuanced and sophisticated functions. This allows individuals to live as fully equipped adults, detached from their parents to the fullest extent, although the transition is often not elegant or pleasant at the beginning. The key limiting factor is living in a crowded society, which can be dangerous and uncertain. What is better? Should they become destructive individuals who harm society? Or should they become reserved individuals conforming to expectations? What is the new normal? What will suffice? Some gentle parental guidance is required at this point. However, most damage is done by age 6. When a child is neglected and ignored to stop crying, nothing will be normal afterward. By puberty, a parent can only support the child through the hardships of transition. This is a natural legacy from ancient times when humans existed as primates and childhood lasted only about 10 years, with extended breastfeeding in the safety of tree canopies. Ancient Romans, when a child was old enough, rented them a property, allowing them to experience life independently, face the consequences of their actions, and learn responsibility. It was probably a double-edged sword, granting freedom while also being the fiercest challenge to oneself. The community likely gathered to make peace, and the struggling young person found their place as an honorary shoe shiner. The demand was so large it made their family prosperous. Later, trades became less desirable, but that is another story. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.